The human and the queen, the battlefield was silent now. Smoke drifted through the broken walls, and the bodies of soldiers, both human and alien, lay scattered across the dusty ground. Once, this place had been a small colony outpost. Now it was just ruins. Eric Kane, a young human soldier, slowly opened his eyes. His head ached, and a deep cut ran across his cheek. The last thing he remembered was a blast, fire, and his squad, calling out for cover. Now everything was quiet. He pushed himself up, feeling the sharp pain in his ribs. His blaster lay nearby, half buried under debris. He grabbed it quickly, his senses sharp. The battle was over, but he wasn't sure who had won. Eric looked around. Strange alien symbols covered the walls. It wasn't part of the colony anymore. Somehow, during the fight, he had been dragged deep into an enemy base, alone. He knew. He had to move. The alien soldiers, known as Vera, showed no mercy to human prisoners. If they found him, it would be the end. Keeping low, Eric moved through the dimly lit hallway. Blue lights flickered above him, and the air smelled of burnt metal. The sound of distant footsteps echoed somewhere far away. Suddenly, a door at the end of the corridor slid open. Eric raised his blaster, his heart pounding. But what he saw made him freeze in place. Standing there was a tall, elegant figure, covered in sleek, shining silver armor. Her long black hair fell over her shoulders, and her pale skin seemed to glow faintly in the low light. Her eyes were a deep, strange shade of violet, and her face carried the sharp beauty of something not quite human. She wasn't a soldier. She was the alien. Queen. Eric had heard stories about her. The Vera Queen was said to be ruthless, leading her people in battle, showing no kindness to humans. No soldier had ever faced her and lived. Yet here she was, standing just a few steps away, her hand resting on the hilt of a strange, curved blade. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Eric knew he should attack, or at least run. But something about her presence held him in place. The queen tilted her head slightly, studying him with a curious smile. "You're brave, human," she said in perfect English. Her voice was smooth, soft, and somehow dangerous. "Most of your kind would have run by now." Eric's fingers tightened on his blaster, though he knew it would do little good against her. Then, before he could stop himself, the words slipped from his mouth. "Nice armor," he said. The room fell silent. The queen blinked, and a slow smirk spread across her lips. She stepped forward, her armor catching the light. "Careful, human," she replied, her voice amused. "Flattery can be dangerous." Eric's heart hammered in his chest. He had no idea why he said it. Maybe fear, maybe foolishness, or maybe because death felt so close it no longer mattered. But instead of attacking, the queen lowered her weapon. "You're not like the others," she said softly. Eric kept his blaster aimed, but his hands shook slightly. "Why aren't you killing me?" he asked. The queen moved to a nearby console and tapped a control. A soft hum filled the room, and the doors behind her sealed shut. "I'm curious," she admitted. "Your kind has fought so hard, so stubbornly. I wonder, what makes you so impossible to break?" Eric swallowed hard. "Maybe we're just stubborn like that." A quiet laugh escaped the queen's lips. "I admire that, in a way," she said. "Tell me, soldier, do you wish to die today?" Eric looked into her strange violet eyes. There was no mercy there, but also no hatred, just curiosity. "I'd rather not," he answered honestly. The queen's smirk widened. "Then perhaps we should talk." Eric was confused. Was this a trick? No Vera officer had ever spoken to a human like this before. The queen stepped closer, and for a moment, Eric felt the strange, almost hypnotic pull of her presence. "You have a name, human?" she asked. Eric, he replied. Eric Kane. She nodded, her gaze lingering on him as if committing it to memory. Well then, Eric Kane, let's see what kind of man you are. Unexpected conversation. Eric Kane stood inside the Queen's chamber, his blaster still in his hand. Every part of him screamed to run, but something in the way she spoke, the way her eyes studied him, made him stay. The room was strange, not like any command center he'd seen before. Glowing crystals hung from the walls. The air carried a faint, sweet scent. Alien weapons and artifacts lined the shelves. And yet, it felt more like a personal space than a war room. The alien queen moved with slow, graceful steps toward a tall, silver chair. She sat down, never breaking eye contact with him. You're far from your squad, Eric Kane, she said, calmly. Do they even know you're alive? Eric frowned, his pulse still racing. Guess that depends on if I walk out of here or not. A slight smile touched her lips. Bold. I like that. Eric tightened his grip on his blaster, unsure if this was a game, a trap, or something else entirely. No one in the human ranks ever imagined a conversation like this could happen. He shifted his eyes toward a strange device nearby, a half-broken human communication beacon. Its presence made his stomach twist. Where did you get that? He asked. The Queen followed his gaze. From your fallen soldiers, she said softly. They die bravely. I respect that. But such bravery, such loyalty is wasted in a war built on old lies. Eric narrowed his eyes. What lies? She leaned forward slightly. Do you even know why your people and mine fight, Eric Kane? What started this war? Eric shook his head. Your people attacked our colonies. That's enough reason for me. The Queen's violet eyes sparkled with something close to pity. Is that the story they tell you? She asked. Typical. They fear the truth. Eric didn't lower his weapon. And what truth is that? The Queen stood and walked over to a display screen. With a wave of her hand, old footage appeared. Grainy images of human ships, ancient battles, and a council chamber filled with leaders both alien and human. Centuries ago, your kind was feared, she said. Not because you were weak, but because you were too strong, too clever, too unpredictable. The Council of Worlds feared what humans might become. Eric stared at the images. Human warships, human colonies, alien worlds flying human flags. They betrayed your ancestors, the Queen continued. They signed secret treaties to hunt down human fleets and scatter your people. They erased your victories from history and left you fighting for scraps. Eric's throat felt dry. No one told us this. Of course not. Why would they? She said, her voice a little sharper now. If your kind remembered who you were, if you knew what power you held, this galaxy would tremble again. Eric lowered his blaster slightly, doubt creeping into his heart. If that's true, why are you telling me? The Queen's gaze softened. Because I'm tired, human, she said quietly. Tired of war, tired of lies. I see something. In you, in your people. A stubborn spark that refuses to die. And perhaps it's time that spark burns bright again. Eric hesitated. And what do you expect me to do about it? I'm just a soldier. The Queen stepped closer, so near he could feel the strange warmth of her presence. Even a soldier can change the course of history, she whispered. All it takes is one choice. A soft beep echoed from a nearby panel. The Queen's expression darkened. Guards approaching, she said. They've found your trail. Eric raised his blaster again, ready to fight, but the Queen raised her hand. Wait, she said. She moved to a console and tapped a command. A shimmer of light spread across the room. There. They won't see you for a little while. Eric stared at her, confused. Why are you protecting me? She gave a small, crooked smile. Because I'm curious what you'll do next. Eric's mind spun. Everything he'd been told, everything he believed about this war, was breaking apart. The enemy wasn't what he thought. The Queen wasn't a monster. And the war might be based on a lie. The Queen stepped back and spoke one last time. There's a passage beneath this floor, she said. It leads to the old human ruins beneath this world. Go there, learn the truth for yourself. Eric hesitated. And, if we meet again? He asked. The Queen's smile widened. Then we'll see if you're still brave enough to complement my armor. Unexpected conversation. Eric Kane stood inside the Queen's chamber, his blaster still in his hand. Every part of him screamed to run, but something in the way she spoke, the way her eyes studied him, made him stay. The room was strange, not like any command center he'd seen before. Glowing crystals hung from the walls. The air carried a faint, sweet scent. Alien weapons and artifacts lined the shelves. And yet, it felt more like a personal space than a war room. The alien Queen moved with slow, graceful steps toward a tall, silver chair. She sat down, never breaking eye contact with him. You're far from your squad, Eric Kane, she said, calmly. Do they even know you're alive? Eric frowned, his pulse still racing. Guess that depends on if I walk out of here or not. A slight smile touched her lips. Bold. I like that. Eric tightened his grip on his blaster, unsure if this was a game, a trap, or something else entirely. No one in the human ranks ever imagined a conversation like this could happen. He shifted his eyes toward a strange device. Nearby, a half-broken human communication beacon. Its presence made his stomach twist. Where did you get that? He asked. The Queen followed his gaze. From your fallen soldiers? She said softly. They die bravely. I respect that. But such bravery, such loyalty, is wasted in a war built on old lies. Eric narrowed his eyes. What lies? She leaned forward slightly. Do you even know why your people in mine fight, Eric Kane? What started this war? Eric shook his head. Your people attacked our colonies. That's enough reason for me. The Queen's violet eyes sparkled with something close to pity. Is that the story they tell you? She asked. Typical. They fear the truth. Eric didn't lower his weapon. And what truth is that? The Queen stood and walked over to a display screen. With a wave of her hand, old footage appeared, grainy images of human ships, ancient battles, and a council chamber filled with leaders both alien and human. Centuries ago, your kind was feared, she said, not because you were weak, but because you were too strong, too clever, too unpredictable. The Council of Worlds feared what humans might become. Eric stared at the images. Human warships, human colonies, alien worlds flying human flags. They betrayed your ancestors, the Queen continued. They signed secret treaties to hunt down human fleets and scatter your people. They erased your victories from history and left you fighting for scraps. Eric's throat felt dry. No one told us this. Of course not. Why would they? She said, her voice a little sharper now. If your kind remembered who you were, if you knew what power you held, this galaxy would tremble again. Eric lowered his blaster slightly, doubt creeping into his heart. If that's true, why are you telling me? The Queen's gaze softened. Because I'm tired, human, she said quietly. Tired of war. Tired of lies. I see something. In you, in your people. A stubborn spark that refuses to die. And perhaps it's time that spark burns bright again. Eric hesitated. And what do you expect me to do about it? I'm just a soldier. The Queen stepped closer, so near he could feel the strange warmth of her presence. Even a soldier can change the course of history, she whispered. All it takes is one choice. A soft beep echoed from a nearby panel. The Queen's expression darkened. "Guards approaching," she said. "They've found your trail." Eric raised his blaster again, ready to fight, but the Queen raised her hand. "Wait," she said. She moved to a console and tapped a command. A shimmer of light spread across the room. "There. They won't see you for a little while." Eric stared at her, confused. "Why are you protecting me?" She gave a small, crooked smile. "Because I'm curious what you'll do next." Eric's mind spun. Everything he'd been told, everything he believed about this war, was breaking apart. The enemy wasn't what he thought. The Queen wasn't a monster. And the war might be based on a lie. The Queen stepped back and spoke one last time. "There's a passage beneath this floor," she said. "It leads to the old human ruins beneath this world. Go there, learn the truth for yourself." Eric hesitated. "And if we meet again?" he asked. The Queen's smile widened. "Then we'll see if you're still brave enough to complement my armor." Secrets of the Empire Eric Kane stood in the Queen's chamber, unsure if this was bravery or madness. The alien guards were getting closer. The shimmer in the room might hide him for now, but it wouldn't last long. He looked at the Queen, still trying to make sense of why she hadn't killed him. "Go," she said again, her voice steady. "The passage is beneath the floor. It leads to the old chambers, places your kind once built before this world was taken." Eric hesitated. "Why help me? What's really down there?" The Queen's eyes softened, something like sadness flickering in them. "Truth," she said quietly, "and proof that you've been lied to for generations." Before Eric could reply, she moved to the console again, sending a fake signal to her guards. "They're being sent to the wrong wing," she said. "It won't fool them for long. You have minutes." Eric nodded, tightening his grip on his blaster. "All right, I'll go." The Queen stepped closer, her armor catching the flickering light. "Be careful, human," she said. "If you die, down there, this galaxy will lose its last hope." With that, she pressed a hidden panel on the floor. A small hatch opened, revealing a narrow staircase leading deep into the shadows. Eric looked at it, then back at the Queen. "I still don't trust you," he said. Her lips curved into a faint smile. "I wouldn't expect you to." Without another word, Eric climbed down into the darkness. The hatch closed above him, leaving him alone. The air below was colder. The walls were lined with strange old markings, human writing, faded by time. Dust covered everything. The faint hum of old power systems pulsed through the floor beneath his boots. Eric kept his blaster raised, moving slowly. Every step echoed in the narrow passage. The further he went, the clearer it became. This place was ancient, built by humans long before the current war began. After several minutes, he reached a wide chamber. Old banners hung from the ceiling. Earth's old emblem, barely visible. Cracked monitors lined the walls. There were signs of a battle long ago. Blast marks, fallen weapons, old bones. Eric swallowed hard. His ancestors had fought here. In the center of the room stood a large console, its screen still glowing faintly. He wiped off the dust and tapped the controls. To his surprise, the old system came to life. File log, year 2187 final entry. Shaky recording appeared. A human officer, blood on his face, looked into the camera. "To anyone who finds this," the man said, "we held them as long as we could. The Vera betrayed the Council, but the real enemy is among the High Command. They feared what humans were becoming. They turned our allies against us. This isn't a war for land. It's a war to erase us." Eric's chest tightened. The officer's voice grew weaker. "If you survive, remember who we were. Remember, we fought for freedom, not conquest. Don't let them bury the truth. The screen went dark. Eric stood in silence, the old words heavy in the air. Everything he had been told about this war, about the enemy, about humanity's place in the galaxy, was a lie. The humans hadn't started the fight. They had been hunted. Suddenly, a soft voice spoke behind him. "I see you found it." Eric spun around, blaster raised, but it was the Queen. "How?" he began. "I told you there's more to this war than you know," she said. "This was your people's last command center before the Council ordered the purge. They feared human strength, feared what you might become." Eric lowered his weapon. "And you're telling me this because—" The Queen stepped forward. "Because I was a child when this happened," she said quietly. "I remember seeing the slaughter. I remember the lies they told my people too. Not all of us agreed. But by the time I rose to power, the war had already become a cycle." Eric stared at her, anger and confusion mixing inside him. "All these years, my people have died for nothing?" "Not for nothing," the Queen replied. "For survival, for a truth long buried." Eric clenched his jaw. "I won't let this stay buried." The Queen gave him a sad, knowing look. "Good," she said, "because if you don't act soon, there won't be a future left to fight for." A sudden alarm echoed through the chamber. The Queen's expression hardened. "They've found you." Eric raised his blaster. "Guess this conversation's not over." She gave a sharp nod. "No, human. It's just beginning." Escape plan. The alarm blared louder, sharp red lights flashing along the walls of the underground chamber. Eric Kane gritted his teeth, blaster raised, scanning the dark corners. Footsteps echoed above them, heavy, fast, and getting closer. The alien Queen moved swiftly to a hidden control panel near the old console. Her calm expression didn't match the chaos closing in around them. "They've traced your energy." "Signature," she said. "This place won't stay hidden much longer." Eric's pulse raced. "I thought you said they wouldn't find me this fast." "I said we had minutes. It seems we've run out." From above, voices shouted in the Vira language. Orders for capture. Orders for death. Eric tightened his grip on the blaster. He knew he couldn't fight a whole squad down here, and he wasn't about to let them drag him out alive. "There's a service tunnel behind this wall," the Queen said, tapping a panel. A section of stone slid open, revealing a narrow passage. "It leads to the old launch bays. There's still one functional ship hidden there." Eric shot her a look. "You planned this?" A faint smirk crossed her face. "I prepare for all outcomes, human." Blaster fire rang out in the upper corridor, getting closer. Dust fell from the ceiling. Eric didn't waste another second. He moved toward the tunnel, but paused, glancing back at the Queen. "You're coming too, right?" For the first time, she hesitated. "My people, they'd see me as a traitor." Eric gave a dry, humorless laugh. "I'd say you crossed that line when you started saving my life." The Queen stared at him for a long moment. Then, with a sharp nod, she followed him into the narrow passage. The stone door sealed shut behind them, just as alien soldiers reached the chamber. Muffled shouts echoed through the wall. Eric and the Queen moved fast through the tight, twisting tunnel. The walls were old, covered in marks from battles long forgotten. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. "Why help me?" Eric asked between breaths. "If you cared so much about the truth, why wait until now?" "I needed the right human," she said. "One stubborn enough to listen, one bold enough to act." Eric snorted. "Lucky me." After several long minutes, the passage opened into a wide underground hangar. Dust-covered ships sat in silence, rusted, broken relics of a past war. But one ship, small and sleek, still hummed with faint power. There, the Queen pointed. That scout-class fighter still works. Eric moved toward it, eyes scanning the shadows. Any guards down here? Not yet, but they'll figure out where we went soon enough. The Queen tapped a control panel by the ship's entrance, and the hatch opened with a hiss. Inside, the cockpit still glowed with faded blue lights. Eric climbed in first, taking the pilot's seat. He wasn't a pilot by trade, but basic training covered everything. He'd flown worse before. The Queen entered behind him. "Start the engines," she ordered. "I'll handle the bay doors." Eric powered up the controls. The old ship coughed. To life, systems flickering on. Dust blew away as the engines warmed up. The Queen moved to a wall console and input an old override code. Above them, a section of the hangar's ceiling began to split open, revealing the night sky. But as the doors opened, several Vera patrol ships appeared overhead. "They're here," Eric warned. The Queen's expression hardened. "I'll buy you time." Before he could stop her, she stepped out of the hatch and fired a burst of energy from a hidden wrist blaster, striking one of the Vera ships. It exploded in a bright flash. The other patrols fired back, and for a moment the hangar was filled with light and smoke. "Get this ship in the air, human." The Queen shouted. Eric cursed under his breath, but gunned the engines. The old fighter lifted off, shaking as it cleared the hangar. Energy blasts streaked past him. He gritted his teeth, pulling the ship higher. Through the cockpit window, he saw the Queen still fighting below, moving fast, striking down guards with deadly precision. "She's insane," Eric muttered. As the fighter broke through the hangar. Doors into open sky, a voice crackled through the ship's comms. "You better survive this, human." It was her voice. Eric smiled, despite himself. Wasn't planning to die today. The ship shot into the night, engines roaring. The enemy would be hunting him now, across every corner of the planet. But he had the truth. And maybe an unexpected ally. The final stand, the old fighter roared through the night sky, weaving between jagged cliffs and empty valleys. Eric Kane gripped the controls, sweat dripping down his face. The planet's surface stretched out below him, scattered with broken war machines and ancient ruins. The ship's sensors beeped. Enemy patrols were hunting him now. His escape hadn't gone unnoticed. "Come on," Eric muttered. "Where's that rebel camp?" He followed the old map the Queen had uploaded before he launched. A small canyon lay ahead, hidden from the main scanners. It was there, she claimed, where the last group of free human fighters still survived. Eric angled the ship down, landing hard behind a ridge. Dust and smoke billowed up as the fighter's engines powered down. Before he could open the hatch, a group of armed human soldiers surrounded the ship. They wore scavenged armor, dirty and scarred, their faces grim. Their weapons were old, but steady in their hands. One man stepped forward, tall and sharp-eyed. "Who the hell are you?" He barked. "Name's Eric Kane," Eric called out. "I've got something you need to see." The soldiers exchanged wary glances, but motioned him out. Eric climbed down, his hands raised. "What's this about?" The leader asked. Eric reached into his pack and pulled out a data core, the one from the Queen's chamber, the one holding the truth. "I know why this war started," Eric said. "And it wasn't us." The leader frowned. "What do you mean?" Eric took a breath, keeping his voice steady. "The Vera didn't start this war alone. The Galactic Council betrayed humanity centuries ago, covered it up, turned every species against us because they feared what we could become." The soldiers stared at him, disbelief and anger flashing in their eyes. "You have proof?" The leader asked. Eric held up the core. "This shows everything. Battle records, council orders, witness logs. And there's more. The Queen herself. She's not what we thought." The soldiers murmured at that. You're working with her? Someone growled. She saved my life, Eric said firmly. She's risking hers now. There's a bigger enemy hiding behind. This war, and if we don't act now, we'll never get another chance. The leader's face hardened. He took the core and handed it to a tech. Get this decrypted. He ordered. As the soldier moved, another signal came through. The old fighter's radio still active. A familiar voice crackled in the static. Human, are you there? It was the Queen. Eric grabbed the comm. I'm here. Where are you? The High Command discovered my betrayal. I won't survive this night. But you must lead them. Tell them the truth. Fight for your people. Eric's jaw clenched. I'm not leaving you behind. There's no time, Eric Kane. Her voice soft. I never thought a human would be the one I trusted. Yet here we are. A sharp explosion sounded over the comm. The Queen gave a pained laugh. They're coming. I'll hold them off. The line crackled, then silence. Eric's grip tightened on the radio. The soldiers watched him, waiting. What now? One asked. Eric turned, his voice cold and sharp. Now we finish what our ancestors started. The leader gave a grim nod. And let's hit them back. Within minutes, the small human camp sprang to life. Old tanks, patched-together fighters, and soldiers armed with whatever weapons they had gathered in secret. No longer hiding. No more waiting. As dawn broke, the human forces moved. High above, Vera ships appeared in the sky, their engines roaring. But this time, the humans didn't scatter. They fought back. Eric led the charge in the old fighter, weaving between alien cruisers, blasting down enemy craft. The rebel forces hit the Vera ground troops hard, reclaiming old human positions. Battle spread across the valley. The Queen's forces loyal to her. Hidden rebels within the Vera army turned on their own side, joining the humans. Ships switched allegiance mid-air. Soldiers tore off their insignias and raised the old Earth banner. Eric pushed his fighter toward the command ship. For the Queen, for the truth, for humanity. As he fired the final shot into the command cruisers. Core, the ship exploded, bright light filling the sky. A cheer rose from the ground, the first true human victory in years, but Eric's heart felt heavy. Somewhere in the ruins of a crumbling alien city, the Queen's last words echoed in his mind. I'll hold them off. She had kept her promise. New alliance or new war? The battlefield lay silent. Smoke hung in the morning air as the last fires burned across the valley. Crashed alien ships smoldered in the dirt, while broken weapons and scattered banners marked where the fiercest fighting had taken place. For the first time in years, a human flag was raised on Orin 7. Eric Kane stood beside the old fighter, helmet in his hands. Dust and sweat clung to his face, his uniform torn and stained. Around him, soldiers cheered, but Eric's thoughts were far away. He looked toward the ruined city in the distance, the place where the alien Queen had made her final stand. The last message she sent still echoed in his mind. Fight for your people. The human forces, once scattered survivors, now stood together. Their numbers had grown. Some alien rebels who'd been loyal to the Queen had joined them after the battle, unwilling to keep fighting for the old, corrupt consul. The leader of the human camp, Captain Wren, approached Eric. You did good. Kane, he said, clapping. A hand on his shoulder. We've won this ground. We've sent a message. Eric gave a faint nod. This isn't over. Wren sighed, glancing at the horizon. No, it's just begun. Later that evening, the remaining commanders gathered. In the old ruins. Around a long, cracked table, both human and a few Vera rebels sat together, tense, wary, but united by what had happened. The decrypted files from the Queen's data core played on a makeshift screen, footage of the Council's betrayal. Orders to hunt human colonies. Records of Vera commanders who knew the truth but stayed silent. The room was quiet as it ended. One rebel, a Vera officer named Ralvik, spoke first. "We were lied to," he said. "And we've shed too much blood for those lies." Eric looked around the table. "Then we agree on one thing," he said. "The old council dies. The war ends. No more killing over a lie." Another human soldier spoke up. "What about the others? The rest of the alien races? They still believe we're monsters." Eric stood. "Then we show them we aren't. We take back our homes, rebuild what they tried to erase, and expose the one still hiding the truth." There was a long silence. Then, one by one, the others nodded. A new alliance, forged in blood and betrayal. Outside, the survivors gathered around fires. The night was quiet, but the sky above them shimmered with strange, distant lights. Eric tilted his head, watching those lights move. Not stars. Not ships. Warnings. Something else was out there. He remembered what the Queen had told him before they parted. There's a greater enemy still in the shadows. One the Council fears more than you. Eric had no idea what she meant. But he knew. The war wasn't finished. Captain Wren joined him by the fire. "You think they'll come for us now?" Wren asked. Eric's eyes stayed on the stars. "They'll try. The Council's not done. And whatever bigger threat's out there, it'll make a move soon." Wren smirked. "Good. Let 'em come." A soft beep sounded from Eric's wrist communicator. A message. No name, no signature. But he knew that voice. "Until we meet again, human." The Queen's voice. Eric smiled faintly. "I'm counting on it." As the fires burned through the night, the new army, humans and alien defectors alike, prepared. Not for an easy life, not for peace, but for the long fight ahead. They would carry the memory of those lost. Of the Queen who risked everything. Of the soldiers who refused to die forgotten. The galaxy would learn something it once feared. Humans never stay buried. And somewhere beyond the stars, in the darkest corners of space, the real enemy watched, waiting. The end